Well, we're thrilled to talk to any athletes from my home country, Canada. Even more thrilled to talk to athletes who are really only a couple months removed from the most delayed games in very recent memory, the Tokyo Olympics. And we have double the pleasure today of being able to talk to two medalists that Canada had in the track cycling back in Tokyo. We have the bronze medalist in the Keirin, Lauriane Genest, and we have gold medalist in the women's sprint, Kelsey Mitchell. Welcome both of you to Off the Podium, and thanks for doing this at the same time too, killing two birds with one stone.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, I find it interesting with the Tokyo Games, especially because it is such a different games. We'll kind of get your take on that later on, but we always like to find out before we start this about your history in the sport. Now, I kind of know just, from being here in Canada and seeing a lot of media, you both have kind of interesting story about how you got into cycling in the first place. But if you just want to kind of fill everybody in, because it is kind of a unique story and I guess a more recent thing for both of you.
Yeah, I can start. I was a figure skater. I did figure skating my whole childhood from like 6 until I was 17, 18 years old. And one summer, I really wanted to try something new, and I tried cycling, road cycling with my dad, and I really loved it, and just instantly really wanted to be more competitive in the sport. And a couple of months after, I heard about RBC Training Ground, and it really got me to the national team really quickly, and the process just happened really fast. And I actually met for the first time Kelsey at this event at RBC Training Ground. And we didn't know we would end up here together today, but we were actually pedaling side by side at this event. So it's kind of a fun story. Yeah.
And Kelsey, for you, I think it's a very similar story too, like not involved in cycling at all, and you just kind of fell into it partly through this training ground.
Yeah, played sports my whole life. Soccer was my favorite, but graduated and finished my 5 years of eligibility for post-secondary, and was just kind of lost and didn't want to be done with sports. So attended the RBC Training Ground, where I got to meet Lauriane, and Cycling Canada was there and said I had potential, and I ended up signing with them, and we've been training side by side for the past three years. And we ended up both making it to the Olympics and both getting a medal. And it's a pretty crazy story.
Yeah, we started this show actually around the time of Tokyo and Rio. And during our coverage of Rio, I was mentioning, there's a lot of stuff on TV about this RBC Training Ground, and saying it kind of sounds like, this is going to be something maybe by Paris, we're going to be seeing some results from it. Really, you two are examples of how well this has worked, and just to kind of fill people in on what this is. I mean, it basically does exactly what it did for both of you. It identifies your strengths maybe in sports that you wouldn't necessarily have gone out for or even had experience in. So with Lauriane, with you said you had already done some cycling, but was the idea of track cycling as opposed to road cycling, was it something you even explored before attending this?
Yeah, I did explored it. The coach that was running the club I was in for road cycling saw I could have potential on the track, and I had tried it before. But RBC just really helped to, the process was just so fast, and to have Cycling Canada there and being able to see what you could potentially do in a couple of months or in a year, and see that you have the potential to be one of the best. That's what's really amazing with the RBC Training Ground program as well.
And one of the other things unique about this is that in identifying athletes, if I'm right, there's kind of an age restriction to this as well, right? Like they want to go for young athletes because they want to know, okay, you have the time and the energy and age left in you to be able to have a long career. Kelsey, with you, I mean, you were kind of reaching the top end of their very, which is weird to say, because when you read up on this, their cutoff's 24 years old, and how are we, 22 or 23 when you attended this?
Yeah, I think it's 15 to 25 now. And I attended at 23. And so I was definitely one of the older ones there. I was surrounded by 15, 16-year-olds whose mom signed them up and has made them be there. But yeah, I was committed to the whole process. It was kind of my last chance to continue to be an athlete. And so I bought in completely to it. I trained for it, flew across the country to attend. And I was open to any sport. And it was actually the first event I did. It was a vertical jump. And there was Cycling Canada rep there, and he pulled me aside and really said I had the potential and pushed for me. And he was right. And yeah, I'm a big fan of the program. It completely changed my life. And so, yeah.
Was cycling something that you had thought about or even seen any potential in yourself prior to doing this?
Honestly, no, just because I hadn't biked since I was a kid, and all the sports I did were running, and there is a velodrome actually in Edmonton. I had never ridden it or really seen it, but yeah, cycling just wasn't something that was in my life, and I wasn't around it. But yeah, like I said, I was just so open to anything, and they said I had potential and I had a good natural pedal stroke, and so I just went with it, and yeah, it worked out.
And I'm guessing they also test you like for other things. It's not just, okay, well, here's one thing we see potential in. What were some of the other things that you ran through? And were there any other sports that were identified for either of you where they said, cycling would probably be the best, but as a backup, this is another option we want to kind of explore more?
Yeah, they test strength, power, endurance,
Speed.
and speed. So the federation can actually see what you'd be good at. For me, I think I remember rugby reached out, but I never tried it. So after they reach out, they and what's cool is they invite you to basically join them for a day or a couple hours and try the sport and see if you could like it. Did you try any?
Yeah. So honestly, I was thinking that bobsled would be interested in me. I just had the build for it, and I was pretty explosive. But they reached out, and same with cycling and athletics as well. So it's quite interesting that rugby is actually a sport that's interested, because it seems like that'd be something you'd need to start as a kid and kind of learn how to play and stuff, like figure skating or soccer would be as well. So the sports are more so power based, or if you're against the clock, versus knowing the game and tactics and stuff. So it'd be speed skating, cycling, bobsled, skeleton, athletics. There's a few more, I can't think of them, but those kind of sports that you may be able to start at a later age.
And for a lot of these other sports, were there any that interested you? Like you mentioned some of the winter sports. Were there any that you thought, oh, this is something that I would love to try, and maybe just you haven't gotten there yet? You still have a chance going forward. I mean, bobsled's kind of known for taking athletes from other sports, right?
She just tried speed skating a week ago.
Yeah, I tried speed skating, and I'm like, how hard can it be skating?
Clara Hughes does it, right?
Yeah, it's hard. It's tricky. It's different. And nobody knew me where I was trying it. And they're like, yeah, I was like, oh, I'm going to be sore. And they're like, yeah, you need to have really strong legs to do speed skating. And I'm like, okay. I train legs every day in cycling, but it's definitely very different. There are similarities, but yeah, who knows? Who knows? Right now, I think the focus is cycling. And I mean, Paris is right around the corner. Yeah. So that's where our head's at.
And based on both of your histories, I mean, question for both of you, did you have goals that you just wanted to be in sports in general, or was the Olympics something that you always looked towards? I want to eventually be an Olympian, and this is sort of how you got there, just seeing what opportunities you had outside of your typical sports?
Yeah, I think we both really, or for me, I always dreamed about the Olympics, and always wanted to be an Olympian. It was just my biggest dream since as long as I can remember. So to just actually be there last summer in Tokyo and live that dream was pretty crazy. And to do it with you was even better.
Yeah. Representing Canada at the Olympics is such a dream for so many athletes. Definitely on the top of the list for accomplishments. But I I just wasn't ready to be done being an athlete. And so the fact that I get to train and work out every single day and travel the world and race and compete, I'm living my dream every single day. And it's perfect. And I get to do it with her. So yeah, it's good.
So what is the typical, I guess, the rate of acceleration for somebody who enters this sport? Because both of you are kind of living examples. Like if you're made for this, if you're good at it, if you put the work in, couple of years turnaround, you can be Olympic medalist. But is that typical that cycling is something that's like you get into and you can get to the World Cup level and you can get to the Olympic level really quickly?
I think we both were pretty lucky when we came in. There was some depth in the women's side, but right now we're strong. We got 4 really strong girls that all actually came through RBC Training Grounds, but it's competitive, and we're definitely right up there with the top in the world, all 4 of us. And so now it would definitely be harder to break into the Canadian team for sprint cycling, but I mean, you never know. And like we're seeing athletes come through the program still that are showing a lot of potential for cycling. And so, I mean, maybe not Paris 2024, that's in 2 years, but maybe the LA after that. So.
And how were the delay of the games something that like how affecting you either through maybe not being able to have the regular competitions you would normally have to get ready for something like this, or even training? How did that extra year you had, I mean, maybe in your cases, it was kind of a benefit. You had an extra year to kind of develop in the sport. Or what was it like when you found out that there'd be a delay in these games? And then I guess what were both the positives and the negatives kind of went along with that?
Yeah, like you said, I think for both of us, it was actually kind of a blessing that we had this extra year and a half to just train more and learn more about the sport. And during COVID, we didn't have the track, the velodrome, we didn't have access. So we were just like training on trainers and doing gym in the garage, but we were actually being able to be really serious and motivated to prepare the games. And like, we always had that goal. And even if it was like further, we still had that same goal. So I think we like really pushed really hard during those months. And it actually made us very much stronger, I think, at the end of the day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think when we found out initially, we found out we had locked in 2 spots for Canada. And then maybe 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks later, we found out Canada wasn't going to go regardless of if it happened. And then a few days later, it was canceled, postponed. And so I think the emotional roller coaster lasted about like 3 weeks. And then we both were just kind of like, okay, one more year or more than a year to get even better and even faster and stronger. And we knew we were competitive with some of the best in the world at that time. And so we knew we had a lot of room to grow and get faster. And we just had to put the work in, and that's what we did. And it paid off.
Like, I don't know if the Olympics would have happened like in 2020, I don't think the results would have been the same. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we both would have got 4th probably.
Well, see, that's another interesting thing, because like when we started this show back during Rio, we used to call 4th place the Canadian gold, because Canada would miss the podium, and then all of a sudden Tokyo comes around, and we thought that Rio was like huge results for Summer Olympics Canada, and then Tokyo, I mean, it was the most medals that Canada has ever won. If you don't count Los Angeles, really the most Summer Olympic medals. I mean, Canada's kind of through both of your success. I mean, you can claim you put Canada over the top. You gave Canada the most successful games ever. Did it feel like that, or were you even aware that going in that this could potentially be such a successful games for Canada in probably the wrong Olympics? It's not winter, it's summer.
Yeah, it was hard to know. No one knew where anyone else was at in the rest of the world. And like for cycling, for us, we're already at a bit of a disadvantage just because we don't get the races every weekend like you do in Europe, and they're competitive. And they just are used to seeing each other and competing against each other, where we're used to maybe racing them 3-4 times in the year. And other than that, we're training. And so they were forced to just train, and we're like, well, we're used to this. And we had no idea where anyone else was going to be at. And we put the work in, they did too, but it worked out for us. Yeah.
And in track cycling, it's it's becoming more common in all sports now, but you have the multiple events you can compete in. Did you know going in, these are the events? Is there a decision made higher up than you? Okay, Kelsey, you're going to do this. Lauriane, you're going to do this. You're both going to do this one. Like, how much notice do you have knowing which events you're going to prepare for?
Yeah, we knew quite a bit ahead. So when we finished World Championships in March 2020, just like just finished like today. And we learned that we qualified for the Olympics 2 years ago. And when we learned that, we knew exactly the spots we had. So we knew that we would both race, sprint, and Keirin. And unfortunately, we couldn't race team sprint, which wasn't we were looking forward to competing in Tokyo, but we just really were happy to have 2 spots because it was really tight.
It came down to literally like the last possible race, and we weren't even in it. We were like watching to see what the results were for other countries, and then we saw that we were going to qualify, and she's bawling in my arms, and our coach is hugging us, and it was like 20 minutes of people being like, what's wrong with them? But we were just, it was a very emotional, exciting moment.
They're like, they're new to this. They're figure skaters, soccer players.
Racing, what's happening right now?
I actually had a chance this afternoon to go back and watch both of your medal wins. And I think one of the things that's really interesting here is this isn't technically the first time we've done an interview with 2 athletes at the same time. It is the first time we've done an interview with 2 athletes at the same time who competed against each other, because I think that's the one unique thing is that your teammates, you're obviously very tight, you're literally in the same environment right now, sitting next to each other. There's no bad blood, but I mean, you do compete against each other. And the last interview we did, it was with an Australian mogul skier, and she was saying like, it's kind of weird because like I have my teammates, but they're also my competition, and it's really the same with you. I mean, how is that balance? Like, do you go into a race when you're going into the Keirin and you knew, okay, we're in the semifinals against each other, it's me or you, or do you kind of root for the other person? If it's not going to be me, I hope it's them.
Yeah, I mean, the Keirin, we were pumped to both be in the final. I think that was a huge win right there for both of us. And my race didn't go as planned, and I saw everyone come over me, and I saw Lo come over me. And in my head, I think I just kind of I didn't stop pedaling, but I knew I was dying out, and I just did a switch, and I'm like, come on, Lo. And I got front row seats to watching her win bronze, and it was, incredible. Exactly like what you said. If it's not going to be me, I'm so, so happy that it's her, and was able to see it happen. And seeing her up on the podium was very emotional. But definitely motivated me to go for it in the sprint and hopefully be able to bring another medal home. And so, it's a fine line.
I think you're definitely like you want yourself to do the best. So if we're in the final together, I want to win, but I know she wants to win too. But if I have a bad race and she has a good race, then I'll 100% be happy for her. And that was her day. That was her race, and she did great. So that's amazing, right? And we both. What's amazing is that we both had our moments at the Olympics. So that was pretty amazing too. So we could both live this moment of winning an Olympic medal.
And we both got to be a part of it. We were in the final together with the Keirin, and then we raced against each other, and unfortunately in quarterfinals. The plan was to be on the podium together, but it was just we were a part of each other's journey to the podium.
And that's something that's always exciting for Canada. I mean, I put a lot of late nights during Tokyo, staying up all night, and every time they would cut back, it's we got 2 Canadians here, and I'm like, all right, so. I can't pick a favorite or anything, but I know that we're going to advance. we have a chance now.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the thing. Was it quarter? Yeah, it was quarters. So one of us for sure was going to be going for a medal. And so it's I don't even know how my coach or our coach was handling it. He's probably just do your best. So it was fine. We were good, and we're good now. And
I was weirdly good.
Yeah.
Well, would it have been different if it was the semis, or if it was for the bronze medal, where one of us is winning a medal, the would that make it more intense? Would you guys get a little bit more competitive then?
I don't know.
I don't think I could get more competitive than I was.
I think we both wanted it.
Yeah, I did. I raced one of my best race actually against her in quarters, and I didn't make it easy.
Yeah,
on
it was
her.
hard.
So we like really tried our best, but yeah, if it was for a medal, I think because
lot of
I had a
sadness.
medal, it was different.
Well, one thing that I found with track cycling, as opposed to, let's say, regular sprinting, like track sprinting, or even speed skating would probably be the sport that this is most similar to, just the layout and everything, is that there's a lot more watching the competition, I find, in track cycling, as opposed to like speed skaters, that they're just focused ahead. And every once in a while you get somebody like Andre de Grasse who's going to glance over really quickly. But I mean, when you guys are racing even each other, you're looking over your shoulder, you see somebody coming up. I mean, are you always sort of aware of who's making a move, what's going on around you?
Yeah.
Not always.
Oh, yeah. You
try to know what kind of everyone's game and like everyone's strengths and weaknesses and like what's your game plan and how you're gonna execute the race. I think match sprint is probably a little easier because you only got one person to look at and know where they are on the track. As the Kieran, there's 6 of us, so it's kind of impossible to know what everyone's doing. But yeah, I think that's like you said, that's what is cool about track cycling. It's not just like it's a sport that is based on speed and going fast, but it's also so tactical and like it adds to the sport. And at first I didn't really like it, but when you like start to understand and like it's kind of cool actually because it adds something to it.
Now, the differences with the Kieran and the sprint, one thing with the Kieran, like you said, you've got 6 people or sometimes 7 in the finals. Whereas in the sprint, I mean, in your case, Kelsey, you knew going into that finals, you were getting a medal. And I always find it interesting when you have people who are in that one-on-one competition where to find out whether or not, if you're going into that gold medal match, are you thinking, you know what, I've come out of this with a medal? Or if you end up winning the silver, do you think that hurts a little bit more? I mean, you were lucky enough to win the gold, but what's kind of the mind process going in, knowing I've got a medal, but I could end up winning a medal, but being the loser? Like, is there something that actually connects in your head when you go into that?
I mean, I wanted the win. I wanted to stand on the top step and see the Canadian flag go up and hear the anthem. I think the Ukraine raced really well and she was tough, but my biggest, after my race against you, my second biggest race was probably against the German in the semis. She was the reigning champion. She's beaten me multiple times before. And so that was kind of where all my focus was. And I had a night to think about it and know I was racing her next. And I took it to 3, which I always seem to do. And after the second round, we both looked over and could see her and she looked tired. She was
not okay.
And I was like, kid, Lowe's right there. She's like, you got this. And then, so I was able to beat her. And then obviously after that, I'm like, there's
the hardest sport.
Yeah. There's no way I'm going out of here without a gold. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you were kind of in a good position where you didn't have to worry about the silver as much. I'm sure there's always something in the back of your head, but you were able to have that little boost of confidence.
I mean, anyone can be anyone on any given day. And the Ukrainian was racing so well. And she's like the opposite kind of rider as me. And so I was racing all my races from the back. And in the final, she was not making that easy. And so I took the front and was able to win still. But I mean, I wasn't relieved until I was standing on the top step. But I was very happy I didn't go to 3 rounds and won it in 2. But I don't know. It was mentally, this sport is very tough as well.
Even better. You would have gone to 3.
Yeah. 3 rides back to back is very hard on the body.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
One of the things I think that's unique about the Kieran is that 50% of your race is almost just pace setting. And I don't know, is that more designed that way where you have those laps just to kind of warm up? And what are sort of the rules? Like you have to completely maintain your position, obviously no passing and everything like that. Can you kind of explain the reasoning behind those the first 50% really of the race, just sort of being stay in your spots and then get ready to move? And then what's it like when you know, okay, now I got to make a move and you have only 3 laps to finish?
It's a good question. I actually don't really know what those 3 laps are for. It's obviously to build up speed. So we'll start from 0 to the motor will drop us after three laps at 50K. So then it kind of starts the race in a way. I'm guessing it's so we go faster. It's like more fun to watch, more fun for the public as if we were starting from 0. And then it's really depends on what kind of rider you are. And in the Karen, you kind of have only one move. It's like you really have to commit, or even in the like individual sprint, our events are like so short and so quick that you have one move and you have to commit to that move. Otherwise, it's not really gonna work out. So it's the Karen's fun because it's really like it depends on so much things, and some people will go long. So the motor will pull off and someone will attack right with 3 laps to go. And other people will just stay at the back and draft as much as possible and save energy. And then go with 1 lap to go or 1 lap and a half to go. So there's just so much happening and you really got to race with your strengths, basically.
Now, this being the first Olympics for both of you, I don't know if this is even something that you would have as much perspective on, but competing at the Olympics with no crowds, really the crowds there were, fellow athletes and stuff like that, no ability to have family members and everything come watch you. Was that different? Or did you find maybe with some other teammates who had multiple Olympics that it was harder for them?
I mean, yeah, Tokyo is the only thing that we know. That's all we know about the Olympics, or from experience. But we were actually 3 hours away from the village from Tokyo, and so COVID wasn't as bad there, and so we were allowed half capacity in the stands. So to us, we were used to training in a completely empty velodrome, so it felt packed to us. It felt loud, and like there's at least 150 athletes and staff in the pits, maybe less, 100 in the pits. And so it felt like it was full, and it felt like there was tons of people. And so it was exciting. There was cameras everywhere. You see the Olympic rings and like everyone is at their absolute best. So the excitement was there, and it felt to us like a major event. Yeah, it was the Olympics. And to us, it was massive, and definitely getting all the support from back home. Like, I know it wasn't the best hours for Canada, but people were up watching, and yeah, it would have been nice to have family and friends there. But like, we had our teammates, we had the people that we've been training and stuck with for the past year leading up to it. They're right by us and celebrating with us. And so, yeah, my experience was good. I liked it.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's because we were so used to like empty velodrome that it didn't feel empty at all when we were at the Olympics. So, but the fact that maybe family wasn't there and friends weren't able to be there, maybe was the hardest part, but we knew they were cheering back home. So
yeah. One thing though, that was nice is we were like one of the last events to go. And I have a hard time. I feel like I always I don't like missing out. And if we were at the village, we were supposed to be like in our beds, resting, getting ready for the events that were going to come in like a week. we had no choice. We had nothing else to do. So we just rested and got ready to race. And so it was weirdly, everything was just perfect. Yeah.
And it was late in the games too. I mean, I think with yours, Kelsey, was that the final gold or even the final medal I think that Canada had for the Olympics?
Yeah, it was a final medal, which I didn't know.
Yeah, wow.
So that was cool, yeah.
I was going to ask because I know, Lauriane, you were like maybe 2 days earlier than that, I think. So kind of at the end of that. But I mean, knowing that you are literally the athletes that pushed Canada over the edge. I mean, knowing that after the fact has got to be a little bit, or even let's go along with the fact that track cycling is something that Canada's, we could always guarantee a medal in it almost, with the exception of 1 or 2 games. But this is only the second time ever that Canada has won multiple medals in track cycling. And it was the two of you who did it, two people who literally met, at training ground events, not really even involved in the sport. I mean, that's got to be crazy in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well said. Yeah. No, I don't even know what the expectations were. It was, we were competitive on the circuit leading into the games, but then we hadn't raced for 500 days, more than 500 days until our last race before the Olympics. And so we just had no idea where anyone else was at, and they didn't know where we were at. And that was kind of our advantage. I think we had a lot more room to improve, where a lot of people have been cycling their whole life. And so they could get a little bit faster, but we were learning how to race and how to tactically be better and stronger on the bike. And so, yeah, I think we surprised a lot of people, and we surprised ourselves. Yeah. So, bring Canada 2 more medals home was something we'll never forget. Yeah.
And another crazy fact, I don't know if either of you have even thought about this, but we're just coming off of the Winter Olympics, which is the second most medals Canada has ever gotten in a Winter Olympics. The Summer Games, your Summer Games, you were only 2 medals behind Canada's second greatest Winter Olympic total of all time. And Winter Olympics had just finished. Canada wins 4 gold medals and 7 gold medals in Tokyo. I mean, it's just bizarre as a Canadian to see there's been this huge shift within the last 2 Olympics, where it's like summer athletes they're getting more attention now. Maybe there's more support through things like RBC Training Ground, or maybe it's just, the right athletes coming around at the same time. But you guys are both part of history too. I mean, it was a historic games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. Cool to think. Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible to see Canada get behind it too. I think everyone was very excited. The media is insane now, like social media and the cameras and the networks that are airing it. Like, you can see everything from pictures and TikTok and Twitter and everything is everywhere. And so I think that it's doing a really good job on showing the athletes that are coming from small towns, and people are getting behind them, or
stories.
Yeah, it just tells a good story, and I think Canada's buying into it, and it's amazing to see. And sports is so important, and I hope it keeps growing, and it keeps going in that way.
And I don't know if you're aware of this. I've seen both of you have the RBC Training Ground videos, your video profiles. I know at least once or twice during the Olympics, I spotted yours, Kelsey, being aired on CBC during the Winter Olympics. Now, 6 months later, you're still on TV.
Yeah, that's so true. I know people aren't over me yet. No, it was cool. I had to do a new voiceover, and I got to change the script. It was like 3 words were changed, but it was from to a track cyclist, and I changed it to an Olympic champion, and that was pretty cool. Yeah. So every time the commercial's on, I make everyone be quiet in the room. I'm like, let's watch.
Did you get to retake yours, Lauriane?
No. That's it. They're like bronze medal, and not good enough.
Well, we have the final set of questions we're going to get to. One thing I want to quickly ask, just as we're on the topic of the Olympics without crowds and everything like that, is you mentioned the time of day was on. If I remember right, both of your medals were awarded, at least here in Central Time Zone, maybe between 2 and 4 in the morning. I mean, it was pretty early. They had that the video wall, which they still did for Beijing, the family wall. Did either of your families stay up to watch this? Did you get to use that wall and see your families after the event was over?
Did we have this in Tokyo?
Mine wasn't. Yours was at night for them.
Yeah,
but I don't think so.
No, we didn't have. Yeah. Or at the track or the velodrome, they didn't have that. I don't know if they had it in other facilities in Tokyo.
Yeah, there were some
families watched.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, they were
there. Did you get instant feedback? Like, did you just immediately check your phone and you got like 90 text messages?
I remember I was doing an interview with CBC in French, and my coach called my parents and my family during my interview, and they like tapped on my shoulder during my interview, and it's like my family on FaceTime, and I'm like almost crying, and the camera's on me. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But I just remember the Wi-Fi being so terrible and so much noise, and I couldn't hear anything. But just to see them, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, thank goodness for FaceTime. I was like, it was right after I won, before the medal ceremony. I was doing doping control. And I had to like sit for 10 minutes to do the blood. And I FaceTime my parents and we just kind of like stared at each other and we're like, what the heck? I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, it's like they were there. It would have been amazing to see them in the stands, but they were able to watch it like with my grandparents and like aunts and like all extended family. So it was cool that they all got to be together.
Trivia fact here. I don't know if either of you are aware of this. You probably weren't watching live while you were racing. In fact, I guarantee you weren't. But are you aware that during your semifinals, the Kieran semifinals, that your names were swapped on the screen? That Lauriane, you were identified by Kelsey, and Kelsey was identified as Lauriane?
We look the same. She's 5'2", 5'3", so yeah, I'm 5'9".
Long hair.
Yeah. We wore the same helmet. It really threw people off.
Yeah.
So I made a switch. Yeah, or else we didn't want that to happen again. So
yeah. Well, that's got to be the tough thing when you have two people from the same country, and they normally you could just look at the uniform and know, but then when you're wearing the helmets and everything, and especially if the TV's screwing up your names, I mean, it's amazing that Kelsey didn't go home with a bronze medal and Lauriane, you go home with a gold medal. Do they know the difference?
I'll take it, yeah.
Before we get to the final set of questions, we always like to ask our guests this. Any special place that you keep your medal? What do you do with it afterwards? It's just going to sock drawer?
I carried mine around for a long time, going back home and like seeing people. I would just always have it with me, and everyone would want to see it, and they didn't really want to see me. They just wanted to see the medal.
It's like having a baby. People want to see the baby, not you. It's like, can we see your medal? And you're like, okay.
But yeah, and I bring it home when I go back to my family home, and my brother, it's like on a little table, and my brother will wear it at time. It's like, this feels cool. But yeah, otherwise it's just sitting in my room.
Yeah, me too.
Sometimes I look at it and be like, whoa.
Yeah. Remind ourselves, yeah.
It's such a great design too. Like we actually did an episode a couple months ago where we ranked all the Olympic medals from the last 20 years. I mean, Beijing's right up there. I mean, it's an incredible looking medal. I mean, that's something I would put it on display, but at the same time, I don't want to advertise. Is somebody going to try to snatch this,
Yeah, people have said, are you going to put it in like a safe or like lock it up or something? And I'm like, should we? Is this? Yeah. Yeah. It's cool to let people see it and hold it though. And yeah.
And what's the weight of it like? Like when you're at the close, you both got to attend the closing ceremonies, right? You didn't. You were that close to the end of the Olympics. You didn't get to go to closing?
I raced the same day of closing. I actually raced in the morning. I was done at like noonish. And then closing was that evening, but we
were like 2 hours from the village.
Yeah.
And we missed the bus.
We were tired. Oh. The medals were heavy. We're like, we'll stay. Yeah, we watched it on the TV, but other than that, we just soaked it all in from our little cardboard beds.
Yeah.
Oh, the cardboard beds. Yeah, we had a lot of talk about that. Apparently, they were like pretty much unbreakable, though, from what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
They were fine.
They were tiny, but they were
yeah. Final set of questions we have here. So history here, Rio and Pyeongchang, what they did on the Olympic.ca website is they got a lot of the Olympians to fill out a questionnaire. They did it in their own handwriting. Some of it are sports-related questions. Some of them are just fun questions. Some of them are pictures. But we were so disappointed they didn't do this for Tokyo because we got so much mileage off of this. But we always give the questionnaires to athletes. So we did have one winter athlete who kind of alluded towards the fact that they were given this questionnaire, but it never actually was released publicly or hasn't been yet. But I'm going to assume by the look on your face, you guys haven't done this?
No.
Good. We're breaking ground. We've taken over from Olympic.ca. I'm actually going to use, I always like when I could use somebody that you might be familiar with. I've got Hugo Barrett's here from Rio. Is Hugo a good guy?
Him.
You know him, yeah. Is he a good guy? Could we expect much from this?
He's okay.
Yeah, we love him. He actually lives in our house.
Oh, really?
Not at the moment, but yeah.
Yeah, I like when there's an athlete that they're familiar with, because if there's a dumb answer on here, then we can get your take on it. So you can both answer, take whatever turn order you want. But first question, the first Olympics I remember watching was?
Vancouver.
Yeah, 2010.
Second question. If I could be any superhero, I would be.
Wait, we're answering for ourselves, or we're answering
yourself.
what Hugo did? Oh, okay.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I could tell you what Hugo wrote Nagano, and the Flash is the superhero.
I don't know. I panicked. Okay, sorry.
But superhero, what superhero would either of you be?
I don't know superheroes.
Olympians are superheroes.
There you go. I'd be Kelsey Mitchell.
Yeah, I'd be Kelsey Mitchell. I don't really know.
I don't know superheroes.
Superman, Batman, Superman.
There you go. That would have been my answer, but both are acceptable. As is Kelsey Mitchell or Lauriane.
Yeah, that's probably the best answer.
The next one, you can submit this if you want. We've actually had a couple athletes send us in later on, but it says draw a picture of yourself. I'll just let you know, Hugo's is basically like a third grader smiley face. So you put a lot of effort into this one. Next one, you could actually answer this. My favorite ice cream flavor is?
Cookie. What is it? Cookie dough? Cookie dough?
Cookie dough. Reese's peanut butter cup. Yeah, with like vanilla-based ice cream.
Mm-hmm. These are the questions where I get really hungry.
Yeah, I know. I'm like thinking, do I have any right now?
If I were a baseball player, my walk-up music would be, I mean, a couple of the sports get this, like, athletics gets their big intro and swimmers get their big intro. You don't have it for cycling, but if you had a walk-up music, what would your choice be?
I'm doing Uproar by Lil Wayne.
Lauriane's still thinking.
I have no idea.
Something Celine, probably.
Yeah.
Hugo went with Enter Sandman by Metallica. That's an aggressive one.
Yeah. He's walking out fast. Yeah.
This one I'm curious about. The best nickname I've ever been called is?
I mean, we call her Big Mitch.
Yeah, I'm still called
and
it.
People call me Little Low. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of funny.
Big and little.
Yeah.
Very creative. Yeah. Big Mitch and Lolo. Yeah.
Next one's another drawing. Feel free to submit it later on if you want, but draw a picture of a Canadian animal. Hugo put a little bit more effort into this one. It's a pretty good moose. I'll say that. Here's one. If I weren't an athlete, then I would be.
Yeah.
I would be traveling around the world.
You'd be a traveler.
I'd be a traveler.
Which you also are as an athlete too, so you're living the dream.
That's true.
Yeah. That's tough because we're definitely living the best life right now. Maybe
wouldn't rather do anything else.
Yeah. Maybe coach.
There's your future. The coach for the next RBC Training Ground athletes.
Yeah, the RBC Training Ground host.
just give you a new commercial every Olympics, right?
Yeah, exactly. Don't feature the athletes, just me on.
Yeah, exactly. My guilty pleasure snack is?
So many.
Chips.
Oh. I used to have chocolate covered pretzels and then I would dip them in peanut butter.
Oh, you're a big peanut butter fan.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask you, Lauriane, favorite chip flavor?
Miss Vicky's something.
Yeah, I think original.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, as a Canadian, you have to give your opinion on this. Ketchup chips, yes or no?
Yes.
I'm a no.
You're a no. All right. I will say this. I'm not huge on ketchup chips. I'm like, I'll eat it if it's around, but
if it's there.
Yeah. But there is I think it's an Old Dutch. They have a spicy ketchup chip, which is amazing. I'm like, I will go out of my way to buy this one. So if you can handle spicy ketchup chips, look for it. My favorite song lyric is a specific lyric, anything?
Oh God, I'm terrible. No, I'm out for this one.
This is literally the toughest question we ever ask people.
What? I'm like thinking of raps. I'm like, this is inappropriate. Why do you think you know that? I don't have anything. Yeah.
Hugo went old school on this. Don't Stop Believing from Journey.
Oh,
Appropriate one, but
Like that.
yeah.
We Googled that.
You didn't know how to get that good answer.
you know, it's funny. There's one swimmer. I won't mention the name on here, but we interviewed Kylie Mass a couple of years ago, and we used another swimmer's base, and she's like, you know what? She's never that funny. She had help with this. And then we studied it, and we could see that the handwriting changes from one question to the next. I'm like, yes, she definitely had help.
Completely called out.
Another picture one. What would the coolest Olympic medal look like? Hugo drew, it looks like a sun that's smiling. It's a smiling sunshine. Here's one. This is where I get my TV recommendations. The most recent TV show I binge watched is...
Actually, I have a good one. I watched it alone because they were gone to Spain. Euphoria. I watched Euphoria.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen it yet, but I mean, it's on my Crave TV list.
Yeah, you should do it. It's kind of dark though, so it depends what kind of mood you're in. But yeah,
You watched that by yourself?
I watched it by myself. Well, they were in Spain in the sun, and I was here, but that's okay. I'm fine. Have you watched anything?
I don't know. We always watch Friends. Friends is always on every day. I think we watch like 2 to 3 episodes. Never gets old.
Mm-hmm.
You watched the reunion special of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. Not great.
Yeah, it was awkward at times, but
It was a little bit. Yeah.
The one takeaway I had from that, like I'll admit, I haven't seen Friends in the longest time, but I'm like, well, this reunion special seems interesting. I'm going to check it out. Everybody always talks about Jennifer Aniston doesn't age. David Schwimmer doesn't look like he's aged a day either.
He got surgery.
They've all got so much work done. It's hard.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Some of their surgeries have just been better than others.
Yeah, we were so used to watching Friends like every single day, so we saw them like that, and then we watched it and we're like, oh, I guess happened. I guess that's you age after 20 years. It makes sense. But
my favorite place in the world to compete is
Canada. Is that a dumb
Yeah,
answer? That's a good answer. At home,
answer.
yeah. We actually have a World Cup. Our last World Cup ever was January 2020 in Milton. And that's our second. We get a race at home again 2.5 years later. About
yeah,
we're pumped.
Well, Hugo wrote Toronto, so I mean we're all in agreement then Canada, right?
Yeah.
Toronto.
We agree. Milton, Ontario. Yeah.
My favorite video game is, either of you video game fans?
Not at all. Not one bit.
No, we don't do that. No.
Hugo just wrote NHL. I don't think he knows which NHL game. Just
he doesn't game at all. I don't know what he's talking about. But. Sports.
Final question here. I can't live without.
This is such a tough question. It's like, do you go like deep and sentimental, or do you go
Can't live without you?
I was gonna say, are you guys gonna answer each other?
I can't live without. I don't think I could live without my phone.
Yeah, phone.
Oh yeah,
connects me with everyone.
Unless there's bad Wi-Fi in Tokyo, right?
Yeah, actually, it was pretty good. It worked.
Yeah.
It worked. That's all. Checks the box. There we go. It worked.
Yeah. Does it work? Yes. All right. We're okay.
Now, before we let you go, anything you guys want to plug? You mentioned events are going to be coming up soon. Also, how can people follow you on social media?
Yeah. I post a lot on Instagram, kelsey.mitchell9.
Lauriane, should I say English accent?
Yeah, and Lauriane
Genest 44.
Lauriane Genest 44.
44.
Yeah, that's French. And yeah, we're racing at home in Milton, Ontario, May 12th to 15th this year.
Come watch.
It'll be sold out.
Put on
quick.
a show.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
I'm crossing my fingers that CBC has some coverage of that too. But new interest in the sport picking up. It's been a long time since was it Lauriane Munzer and Claire Hughes days. So the next generation, led by RBC, is here.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you both for joining us so much. And then we look forward to talking to you after Paris when you're both going to come back with multiple medals again. Maybe even gold and silver in the same events.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet.
That's the plan. Maybe a team sprint. We'll both have
Team sprint gold.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Just come home with
Three medals. Six medals. Yeah.
Six medals.
We'll work on
Everyone.
it. We'll do the math. Thank you so much.